Chapter 30. Step. I spent the night thinking over what Bex had said about the cabinet being full of rubbish. Maybe she was right, but so far I discovered three things that had something to do with the disappearance. Amundsen's glove finger, the Mary Celeste sail, and Amelia Earhart's handkerchief. And they were all inside the egg. Surely that wasn't a coincidence. The egg definitely had something to do with me being erased. The next morning I decided that Charlie Geek was my best hope to help me get out of this mess. Like my sister, he was smart and knew about loads of stuff, especially science. Surely there was something scientific behind what had happened. Maybe he could get the musical box working again. And this time I was going to tell the truth. I was going to tell him exactly what had happened to me. I'd tell him that I'd been erased. Plus, I needed to borrow some new clothes as these ones were really starting to stink. I didn't want to risk being seen at school again, so I decided to wait for Charlie at his house. His mum worked full-time, so there wouldn't be anyone around asking awkward questions. I sat on their front step and stared at the scruffy garden while I waited for him to get home from school. Charlie and his mum used the front garden, the people upstairs in the maisonette used the back. When we were 7, I got the idea we could make a super deluxe dirt track mountain on an empty flower bed. We asked his mum and she said she didn't mind what we did as long as we cleared up any mess. We moved a bucket of earth from one side to the other and piled it onto a great big mound. We used fat sticks to scrape out a track that swirled round on round, and Charlie stuck a big leaf at the top, which he said was the starting point. Then we pushed our toy cars along the track while making brrr noises. Charlie knew all the makes and models of the cars, and he always let me have the fastest, coolest one. Though actually, I probably made him give it to me. I probably made him do a lot of things that he didn't want to. I was that kind of friend to him. Not a good one. After we played with Dirt Trap Mountain a few times, he lost interest in it, and the big mound of earth stayed there, piled high in the corner. Over the years, the mountain became covered with weeds. I looked at the same corner of the garden and rubbed the side of my face. The flower bed where we'd piled tons of earth was completely flat. It wasn't such a shock to me any more now. It was just a fact. I hadn't existed to have the idea for Dirt Track Mountain in the first place, so it had never been made. The memories I had in my head were mine and mine only. I had a past that no one else had shared, nobody at all. A thought that made me very, very lonely. I gave a deep sigh, and when I looked up, Charlie Geek was walking right towards me. "What are you doing here?" he said. His hair was still spiked up, and his school tie was hanging round his neck undone. I jumped up and bashed the back of my jeans. "Charlie, good to see you again," I said, trying to sound friendly. I grinned at him, and he just scowled. "Look, I know you're a bit freaked out by how I keep turning up, but I need your help. Can I explain?" I said. Charlie stared back, his eyes narrowing to little slits. "No," he said. And he rummaged around in his bag and took out his door key and put it in the lock. "Honestly, you're going to love what I've got to tell you. You know you love science. The planets and how things work and sound waves and, stuff. You know how, like all that, you find it fascinating. Well, I've got to tell something which will blow your mind. Trust me?" I fired a massive grin at him and he looked unimpressed. "What are you on about? Science is my worst subject. I hate it," he said. He opened the front door and stepped inside. "Just go away, will you? I don't even know you. My mum will be back in a minute now, and she won't like you being here." I stepped a bit closer. "No, she won't. Your mum doesn't finish work till 6, and she doesn't get in till at least 6:30. Charlie frowned at me. I carried on. "I know it's going to sound crazy, but something happened, and actually, well, you'd better brace yourself for this. It might come as a shock." Charlie raised his eyebrows. So, what's happened is this, somehow, and I'm not really sure how at the moment, somehow I've managed to erase myself from all existence." Charlie stared at me and ran his tongue along the inside of his top lip as he sighed. He looked incredibly unimpressed. "You're shocked, I can tell," I said. "I know, it's bonkers, isn't it? But it's true, and in my old life we were best friends, you and me. You were the dorky one, and I was the one getting into trouble all the time, and, well, everything sort of went wrong. I accidentally broke your nose and ruined a big party at the school which was going to be on TV, and, well, none of that really matters anymore. I don't know how, but I wished I'd never been born, and just like that, I vanished. Well, not vanished exactly, I'm still here, but now nobody knows who I am, and I really have never been born. Can you believe it?" I laughed nervously and then swallowed as he stared back at me. He didn't say anything. "I thought you might be able to help," I added in a quiet voice. He continued to stare at me and then leaned in against the door frame and took a deep breath. "I don't know what it is you're trying to achieve by making all this stuff up, but I'm not falling for it, okay? My heart sank. This was my last hope, and it was going horribly wrong. Charlie, I'm telling the truth. I swear it, I said, fighting back the tears. What do you think could have happened? Please, what can I do? How can I get back? Charlie frowned. What can you do? Let me think, he said. It certainly is a dilemma. I knew it. I knew he'd have a big idea in that big brain of his, and I gave him a smile as he carried on. I know how. How about you keep away from me and never come back? Does that sound like a plan? He said, and I'd get off my step and go home. He went to shut the door, but I put my hand up and stopped him. But I don't have a home, I shouted. He let the door go. Please, Charlie, I said, this isn't a joke. I don't have anyone to ask. No parents, no friends, no grown-ups, no one. Please, I'm in trouble, big trouble, and I need your help. I need you to help me. I held my hands together like I was begging. His eyes flickered a little. We really are good friends, Charlie. The best. You've got to believe me. He stared back. He didn't look angry. He looked almost embarrassed for me. Taking a deep breath, he leaned towards me, and I took a step closer. Leave me alone, you weirdo, he said, and the door slammed in my face. I couldn't believe it. I turned around and sank down onto the step. Now what? Reg couldn't understand. My sister was too terrifying to talk to, and if I tried to explain it to Mum or Dad, they'd probably call the police. And then where would I end up? It was no use. Charlie was my only hope. I just had to make him believe me. I knelt down by the letterbox and carefully pushed it open with my fingertips until I could see the back of his head as he sat on the floor, untying his shoelaces. I'm going to go away in a minute and leave you alone, I promise. But before I do, I want you to listen to something. I know all this is hard for you to believe, but just hear me out, okay? Charlie sat motionless. When you were 6 years old, you went ice skating with your cousins and you broke your wrist. You went to school with your arm in a cast and everybody wanted to sign it. David Peterson wrote across it in thick black pen, Charlie is an idiot. You managed to squeeze a tiny knot in after the years, but you were really upset about it. I blinked as I watched him through the letterbox. If I didn't know you, how would I have known that, eh? I said. He slowly turned, but his face was still frowning. But anyone could have told you, he said. It wasn't exactly a secret. You might have asked my classmates about me, and they could have told you 100 things, 1,000 things. He was right. Okay, I shouted. I'm trying, all right? I'm trying to get you to believe, but I don't know how. Charlie shook his head. You're not really clever at all, are you? He said. The old Charlie never would have spoken to me like this. But at that precise moment, I really didn't care. Look, if you want to convince me, then you've got to tell me something that only you and I would know. If you'd been my best friend, like you say you were, I probably would have shared stuff with you, and only you. Now that would be proof. This is why I needed Charlie's help. He was clever. I desperately thought of something else. Okay, I'm thinking, your favourite crisp flavour is salt and vinegar, Charlie snorted. Pathetic, he said, as he kicked off a shoe. That could be a lucky guess. How about the rarest bird you've ever seen as a nightjar? You saw it in a nature reserve in Suffolk with your dad, and when it was his turn to have you for the weekend. You bored me about it for days about that one. Charlie took his other shoe off. That's true, he said. But again, you could have found that out from my parents. And anyway, bird watching is boring. I only went 'cause my dad dragged me there. Well, that was rubbish for a start. Charlie, I knew, loved bird watching. He stood up. Time's up, he said, folding his arms. You need to go now, or I'm ringing my mum. Hold on, I should get 3 goes. Everyone gets 3 goes on these kind of things, don't they? Like in fairy tales. He glared at me through the letterbox. My fingers were beginning to hurt from keeping it open for so long. Come on then, Rumpelstiltskin, he spat at me. Last try. I thought hard. Had to be the best memory I had about him ever. If I wanted to save Monster, I had to get this right. I needed to go home to save my dog. Right. Okay, I can do this, I said out loud. Cleared my throat. On the back of the headboard in your bedroom, there's a drawing of a heart with Charlie loves Miss Jacobs written inside it. Charlie's face dropped. You fancied our Year 5 teacher. You told me about it, and you showed me the heart when I had a sleepover at yours once. I carried on. You said it was her long hair that you liked. I've never told anyone about that ever, said Charlie, his mouth dangling open. I grinned through the letterbox. But you did, Charlie. Me. I never told anyone about it, because even though I wasn't the best friend in the world, I could keep a secret, especially an embarrassing one. Charlie walked across the hall and I stood up. My knees throbbed from contact with the cold concrete step. The front door opened and Charlie stood there, still open-mouthed. Ooh, I've got another one, I said. When we were about 8, you told me in class one day that you had a tummy ache. I remember thinking, what's a tummy ache? Then I realised you meant tummy ache. You've been saying it wrong for, ever. You're all embarrassed because you're so intelligent and stuff. You told me not to tell anyone, and I never did. I grinned at him. That's weird. Yeah, I did use to say tummy egg. Then he frowned. I'm not that intelligent. You got that wrong. I shook my head. You are in my world. You know all sorts of weird things, and you're interested in everything. You used to get picked on at school about it a bit, but I stuck up for you when the others left you alone. He smiled, a tiny one, but it was still a smile. Something I said made sense. So, you said you'd been erased. You didn't want to exist, and you just, what, disappeared from your own life? I nodded. And you're the smartest person I know. I figured if anyone can help me, you can. Charlie looked a little dazed, and he chewed on his bottom lip. Then he suddenly opened the door wide. Look, I'm not saying I believe you or anything, but you'd better come in. And you've got to stop going on about this smart stuff, right? I'm not clever. Okay, Charlie, I said, as I stepped into his house.